So as you can see, I'm still trying to figure out where everything is. 8B and 6B. We could use the longer one. So today, I thought I would come on, have a chat with you, and obviously show you the shelves are up, which is great. But also to tell you that we've just put up the first class. I'm quite excited to be teaching this new class in Portugal. And so I've been hunting furiously for some tools which have gone missing, but I've just found them because I really needed them for this live. Now, we've only put up one class so far because there's so much going on. So we have a class starting at the end of September, and it is on Brush Spencerian. So I'm going to run you through some of the different variants that I've been working on, because this is something that I've been toying with since I worked out my fourfold symmetry for Copperplate script. So I've been working on this geometric proportioning system for Spencerian, which I'm not really going to show you because it's only really halfway there. But I thought for the end of the year, what we would do is we would do some really fun scripts, because the beginning of the year was really technical stuff. So I wanted you guys to have some fun with the calligraphy and play with the scripts. So I'm going to show you, so we're doing Brush Spencerian at the end of September. We're doing the upright copperplate in October, both the pencil form and the pen form. And then we're going to do a modern calligraphy script that I developed out of my upright copperplate script. But having the pencil form and the Judy script really helps you to consolidate your letter forms before moving on to the modern calligraphy. The PAScribe modern calligraphy. And then in December, we're going to do Brush Copperplate using this very particular hold that I've developed with a filamented brush. So it's much more playful, but it's still quite detailed, and the approach is really technical. So I'm going to show you this Brush Spencerian that I've been working on. So I'm going to swap the phone around, put it into its new technical sort of setup. I'll just show you. So the top hasn't been done yet, but you can see those are out. Having to jerry-rig things. Of course, there's the lining templates down there. Some brushes, some pens there. I mean, there's just so much stuff in here now. Okay, so let's do some writing. Okay, so the thing about the workshop in September is it's really based on Spencerian script. So, I have a very specific italic that I developed. Yeah, I have to turn this first. Let's look at this first. So, my italic works like this. It's very simplistic. And once you study my italic, then a ton of other scripts sort of settle themselves. So for those of you who've done this italic class, please, do comment as I sort of go through it. So my italic is based on this really simplistic approach. Just trying to find the best position for this. So it's basically this and this and this. That's the whole structure of my italic. And then that gives you, of course, I'm just doing it really quickly. Let's redo this M. And that eventually gives you so that's fairly easy and fairly straightforward to understand. Now, there is a reason I'm going through this, because it really is quite interesting how it affects the learning of PAScribe and Spencerian script eventually. So this gives you this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and that, to this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and that. Okay, fairly straightforward. Now, as we move to a smaller tool, we see how it starts to become a lot more playful. Now, the great thing about this italic base is, let's move from straight setup. So the bottom of the table is perpendicular, parallel to this. So I've turned the camera, and I'm also turning the pad to about 52 degrees. So you've seen that this it's in its upright form. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So immediately it starts to give you a sense of so by using the basis of this geometric italic that I've developed, you can very quickly move through to an angled geometric italic, which is very similar to PAScribe. The difference between PAScribe and my italic is with PAScribe, there's a lot more turns. So you go up and over and around and under. Whereas with my script, it's basically up and down. So it gives you a really good springboard to go from here and to learn this PAScribe. Now, that's just the sort of script in its simplest form. As I think, where is the couching sheet? Ah, here, there. So from that, you have the ability to then move to a brush form of the script. So now notice I'm going to write with a brush and I've changed the angle. So I was here. So I'm having to change the angle to compensate for what I'm planning to do. So I'm using the muscular movement to really get that up and running. So that's the Brush Spencerian, which is a very different sort of feel to it. Let me flatten this so you have a better view of it. So it's a much more playful script. And you know, I have tried it with lots of other tools, and I found that it's very difficult to do it with other tools on normal paper unless you start changing the surface of the paper. So this is a strip of, what's it called? Professional quality paper waxing strips. So, you know, it's crazy when I go into a shop, I'm always thinking, what can I use this for other than what it is really for? And so not only can you sort of do Italic, sort of Spencerian with these brush pens, you can also do offhand flourishing and sort of lots of decorative pen work. So this waxing strip is quite, it doesn't tear, but the paper's really solid. You do have to be quite careful with the brushes you use on it because it's quite robust, so it could actually damage your brushes. Now, I'm going to get some a piece of tissue. Maybe I'll do this portrait. So I think for the next sort of year, you're basically going to hear me going as I try to find things, because everything is in very different places. Now, on a sheet of tissue paper, of napkin paper, the system is different. I need to move the camera up a little bit because the pen's quite tall. So I can see a little bit more there. Actually, what I should have done before doing this is I should have ruled some lines up. So let's drop the lining template on this. Very carefully take it off. And where is the 52? There is the 52. So I'm just going to very roughly. So there's the 52 there, 52. You can see the shadow on the page there. So I'm just lining it up to the edge of the page. And let's move it down. Mark to mark to mark to mark to mark to mark and to mark.
So there are some very, very different techniques about, you know, how to produce this Brush Spencerian. So of course I'm using my own PAScribe tool hold technique to do this. And you know, I've tried lots of other tools to see which ones will help in the, So let's just flip that over. You know, all of the tools have traveled on a boat, so every time I open something, I have to be really careful that it doesn't just spill out everywhere. So I have to keep cleaning things and see. So this is a Kuretake. So this is a Fude 8 brush pen from Kuretake. This is another Kuretake. We have a Tombow Fudenosuke. And I used a Sakura calligrapher 30 and a 10 earlier on. And then of course the pencil is a Derwent 8B pencil. So as soon as I have the tool in my hand, I start to realize that I need to write at this angle. So already I need to change the position of the page, and it's starting to leak. So the class at the end of the month on Brush Spencerian will really focus on using the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pens. So if you want to join the class, by all means sign up for it. The tools list is on Eventbrite already. The great thing about and you know, lots of people use lots of other pens interchangeably. So this is a Pentel Touch. The thing about the Pentel Touch is it works really well for Copperplate script with a brush on its side. But it takes a little bit longer to produce that that asymmetrical shade that you really need for Spencerian script. Now, equally, the Tombow Fudenosuke doesn't produce as nice a Copperplate script at the same size, but it does produce it smaller. And it doesn't produce a nice enough symmetrical swell stroke for the shade. But of course, it produces the asymmetrical stroke that you need for Spencerian script really beautifully. So tons and tons of possibilities. So do join us for that class at the end of the month, and you know, I'll sort of expose you to lots of other things. Before I wrap up and move to questions, I just want to show you something that I've been playing with as well, because I really have to. I just found my Kuretake Cambio, what's that called? Kuretake Cambio Vermilion brush pen. Yay. Okay, so let's have a look at these questions. So that's switch this off. Do a better shot there, and you can really see how it's swelling like a what's it called, an oblique, a nib in an oblique holder. Very, very Spencerian-like shapes, very ornamental penmanship. That beautiful third top shade as opposed to the bottom third shade. So some really interesting features. Okay, so let's have a look at some questions. Okay. Oh, Steve, I'm really glad that you enjoyed the Italic class. Oh, so Devendra says, tools that you use is very perfect. I like it thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Echo. So yeah, so you have a couple options. You can either go and do the Italic class on the PAScribe scriptorium, the link's in the bio, and sort of work through it, because you will find, if you are going to join us for the Brush Spencerian, that it will really help your understanding of the structure of the script, and you'll sort of get into the writing much quicker. The classes are for everyone. In the next 6 months, sort of September, October, November, December, the classes are really for anyone wanting to do calligraphy. They're not sort of really technically structured classes. I will be teaching some very technical aspects to the writing so that
it helps you with your understanding and application of this. For those of you who do things like wedding work, you'll find that the Brush Copperplate class at the end of the year in December will be absolutely wonderful for you, because when I did a lot of wedding work and you have to do large table numbers, you don't want to be drawing this and filling it in. So I started to use, large brush pens to write like a Copperplate script. It meant I had to develop an entirely new hold in order to get the tool to approximate Copperplate script. So the classes are really for anyone, they're very, very easily applicable, unlike the slightly more technical classes we had at the beginning of the year. Yeah, so remember, it's Italic, Italic. It is not italics. Italics is what happens when you select a block of text and you go in Word and you just press that I button and it italicizes it. That's italics, right? So italic is italic handwriting or italic script. And if it's variations, it's not italics variations, it's italic variations, okay? So if you are interested in italic, if you want a little bit of an introduction to it, we have a great lecture on the PAScribe scriptorium on italic and its development, and it's really quite fascinating. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed doing that lecture, because for me it was a real journey of discovery, because I realized that I said this in the lecture, I thought that italic started roughly around the end of the 20th century, sort of 18 sort of 1850, 1860. But I was so wrong when I started doing my research, and I realized that what we call italic actually started in the Elizabethan period. So there's italic script in the 1500s, because go and watch the lecture. So Echo, the thing about Spencerian script is it uses muscular movement and whole arm movement. So to get these smooth curves, muscular movement and whole arm movement are essential. The great thing about learning muscular movement and whole arm movement is it is easily applicable to every other script you do, be it contemporary calligraphy, be it traditional calligraphy, be it modern calligraphy, brush lettering, whatever you do. This amazing structure of muscular movement and whole arm movement really does start to help with your work. The great thing about muscular movement and whole arm movement is it stops those little shakes that you find in your writing. So you've probably noticed over the last sort of 5 years or so, my script is very smooth, and it's smooth because of this muscular movement and whole arm movement. So I don't have shakes in my curves, I don't have shakes in my lines, because I'm using my arm to generate the movement, not my fingers. As soon as you start using your fingers, you will get shakes in the lines. Now, I've also developed my own form of muscular movement and whole arm movement, which I refer to as the PAScribe muscular movement and whole arm movement. And they are slight augmentations on what the historical form is. So again, we have that in the prerequisites in the PAScribe scriptorium. Hey OJ. Hey Hector. So that's a really, really good point, Mush, about the stone paper. The stone paper is nice. It's nice to work with. The only problem with it is if you try writing with ink on it, if you're using a nib on it, particularly a pointed nib, it doesn't hold the ink very well, and the tooth in the paper is so coarse, it's like sandpaper. So the tip of the nibs wear away, especially if you're using a metal nib. They wear away really quickly. Now what I noticed was, with the stone paper, you get to a point with it where the stone paper is actually sharpening the nib for you. So it's like writing on an Arkansas stone. The only problem with that is it gets to this point where it's really sharp and you get these beautiful letters, and then it pushes the nib just beyond the point. So the structure of the script changes because the nib is being constantly worn away. So be really, really careful with that paper. It's great for things like ballpoint pens, but it's not particularly good for fountain, well, for calligraphic tools like, brushes. It really eats away at the brushes. What is the name of the wax paper used for? So this is not wax paper, it's a waxing strip. So this is for applying wax and laying it on some hair and ripping it off. So, women would know about this. Men tend not to know about this because we don't really use it, thankfully. But it's a great surface. Just remember, it is quite coarse, so it can damage your nibs. So be conscious of which nibs, which tips you're going to use on it. So Lazarus, I talked about what the names of the tools were. So I will put them in the information when I repost this on the IGTV. Yeah, I wouldn't think that these waxing strips would manage a nib, because it's not the nib that would be the problem, it's the ink. And the way that the ink would drop, because the waxing strips are like this. So if you blow up, if you magnify the surface, it's very, very coarse. It's not even flat, it feels flat, but it's a very open weave. So any wet ink, like fountain pen ink or gouache, dropping onto that would just go. So it would feather. It would be beautiful to see what it does, but so I don't know the Camlin brush pens, so I really don't know how they would work. Thanks, Ginger, about the vermilion. Yep, new temporary studio. Now to remember where everything is, because you'll see me sort of trying to figure, and my mind is still struggling with this brain fog from long COVID. So as if I don't have enough memory problems, I now have to figure out where things are. So the prerequisite classes are already filmed. We also have some prerequisite catch-up classes coming up. So if you have taken any of the prerequisite classes, we will be sending an email out to you, and we will post it online. The prerequisite catch-up classes are going to be based on each prerequisite. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people who've done the prerequisites to send an email in telling us what problems you're having, and then we will do this catch-up class focused on that one prerequisite. So we have 5 prerequisites that we're going to go through. So we have 5 classes starting in October, and we have one last class in December, which is going to consolidate all the prerequisites. So I will show you how I take all those 5 prerequisites and put them together to get them working, so that my posture's fine, my back's a little bit sore because I haven't sat on the stool for so long. How I'm breathing, how I'm holding the tool, where the page is. So you'll see the posture, position, placement, the PAScribe tool hold, and the PAScribe muscular movement and whole arm movement. You'll see all of those together and how they work to really sort of, how they come together to really help you with your script work. So, please join us for the prerequisite classes. Those links will be up. We'll start putting them up at the end of September. And yes, so don't forget the link for the Brush Spencerian script is in Eventbrite. So we'll put that up in the bio soon. Ruby! So Pratik asked, is it the toughest of all? Well, you can't say the toughest of all the calligraphy. He would probably say the toughest of the calligraphic scripts. Spencerian script is it's actually quite simple once you understand what you're doing. The premise of Spencerian script is the size. So Spencerian is generally written quite small. And because it's small, it's equally very fast. So it has a really quick execution rate on the page. Unlike most of the other scripts, I think it's probably the fastest of the scripts to write. So I'm just talking about sort of formal script work. So not Palmer script and not Italic handwriting. So it's really Spencerian script with an oblique holder or with a straight holder, because Spencer actually started Spencerian script with a straight holder. It's very quick, it's very fast. There's some very deft movements that you have to understand, like how to turn the nib to get the asymmetrical shade. But muscular movement and whole arm movement are the key to it. Now, muscular movement and whole arm movement are essentially the key to every script we write. Historically, you can go right the way back into the Middle Ages and you can look at examples of handhold in books like Fugger's book on handwriting, which looks at fraktur, and you can see it's the same hold they're using which the American penmen used. Spencerian script really, the American penmen really helped to make more popular this understanding of whole arm movement and muscular movement. Finger movement is definitely frowned on for writing because it gives you shakes and really rough work. And you really want smoother, more accurate work. So it's not the most difficult of the calligraphic scripts. Simply, you just need to have some basic prerequisites. And this is why I've set up my prerequisites, because I sort of feel that there are things that you have to know before you start doing calligraphy. And it does make your life a lot easier, The prerequisites that we have on the scriptorium, everyone who's done them has said how much it has changed their lives. From people suffering from backache, shoulder ache, neck ache, because their posture's bad and they don't really understand how to sit. They don't understand how to hold the tool properly, where the page sits, so you're writing and you're looking up under your hand. Also, my hold I developed my hold because I damaged my hands from repetitive strain. And so I know what it's like to suffer when you're trying to write, and that should not be happening. But it does happen because we're not really taught how to hold a tool. So my hold really changes the way that you write, and it works for both left-handers and right-handers. My muscular movement and whole arm movement is, again, easier to learn than the historical forms, because the historical forms expect you to rotate your arm quite a lot. And I sort of feel that there is a reasonable amount of change that you can expect a student to have to learn. But when it gets to a point where you're actually relearning everything, it can become quite frustrating. So I developed my muscular movement and my whole arm movement to really change the way that you can learn these two movements more quickly and apply them swifter to the way that you approach your writing. So Echo's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be using up my waxing strips for other than waxing. But when I saw them in the pack, I was like, oh, they look nice and solid. I wonder what they. My only problem was I thought, oh, they're really small. I wish they came in bigger sheets. But they are they are great for writing on, they're great for playing with. They are hugely destructive to the tips of your nibs. So be very, very, very careful with them. So OJ, you know, the thing about the ink being absorbed or floating is the waxing strips are not, they feel hot pressed, but the texture is it's so textured. You have lots of troughs and peaks, so the ink would sink into the troughs. So it mightn't spread as much as it mightn't feather as much as we think it's going to feather. Oh, you know, why am I talking about it when I could actually test it? Let's see what happens. Now, where is, okay. So, obviously with a nib, it's not good. With ink, it does feather. It sort of sits on the surface, but actually, you know, yes. So it sits on the surface, and the first thing it does is it aims for the troughs. So it finds the troughs because you have this big dome of ink, and it starts to work its way through the troughs like you know, water trying to find stability. And because of that, it then starts to sink into the paper itself. Remember, this is for hot wax, so the wax is much more viscous than ink, which is considerably thinner. So RF Calligraphia says, can the height of the table affect the quality of the whole arm movement? Definitely. So this is one of the first things I deal with in the posture videos. So you have two options. You can either go to the scriptorium and purchase the prerequisites, because you know those videos are much longer and much more complicated and much more detailed. Or if you really want to sort of just have a play with how the videos help, go to YouTube and search for the posture video. So look up PAScribe posture, and there's a 10-minute video that teaches you about the height of the desk and how it affects the way in which you write. That video has been on YouTube for quite some time. I think it's, you know, almost sort of maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years. And it's helped a lot of people. I wanted to make something a little bit more comprehensive, so I made this prerequisite video, and the prerequisite video is, I think, an hour long. So it really looks at table height and angle of desk, depending on the script that you're using or you're writing with. So remember, which is good paper for calligraphy is not an easy question to answer. Simasol, I can't tell you which paper is good for you because it's never about the paper. It's always about the paper, the ink, and the nib. Those three things have to work together. And of course, the other issue is I don't know what you have access to in your country. So I do have a little grid. I'm not sure where this grid is. I think we'll have to put it up on the, oh, it's in the scriptorium. You can find it in the scriptorium in the PAScribe or Shopify, in the PAScribe Essential Information Extracts. So it's a grid that tells you which nibs work with which inks and which papers. So, Shaliza, if you're still struggling with your hold, go and get the prerequisite. It will really, really help you. Because if your hold is not comprehensive enough, you will always have problems with your letter forms. Yeah, you know, OJ, the Canson marker pad is a great paper to work with. So I like, Canson marker pad is really good, and the London Graphic Center layout paper is really good if you can get it. Speedball sells a really good paper called Bean Fang, and I think it's called a marker pad paper as well, and that's equally wonderful to work with. rolls of waxing paper, that would be great. So Inda asked, how can calligraphy be useful for the kiddos? Okay, so that's a great question, and it's a question that I cannot answer because I don't really teach children. In fact, I actually shy away from teaching children because the kind of calligraphy I teach is very, very technical. I love teaching adults. I love teaching people how to start their craft and really get better. Children, I don't have enough patience for children. So, you know, that. So I can't really answer your question there because I don't teach children. So, that's great that you've seen that that posture video, Good Family USA. I mean, it's really, really good. And it's really helpful. Can I show the ink test? It's still sitting there. Let's get some more light on it. So it's slowly feathering, but because the paper is so resistant to liquid, it's just sitting on the surface. This jig is so far away. Okay, let's see who else. Okay. Okay, brilliant. Whew. Thank you very much. We will post the link in the bio, in the link tree in the bio, so that you can get to Eventbrite quickly, or just do a search for PAScribe Eventbrite and it'll come up. And that class is a 2-day class, so it's a Saturday and Sunday class. We'll do a little bit of pencil work, and then we will do some brush work with some Tombow Fudenosuke brush pens. I'm not going to teach you, I'm definitely not going to teach you how to do it with a filamented brush pen, because that requires a lot more sort of technical practice. And I don't really want the next 6 months to be too technical. I really want you guys to sort of start using this and playing with it and really, really enjoying it. So that links up. Tombow Fudenosuke's, the link in Eventbrite also has the list of tools and materials, so you can get them soon and you can start working with them. Just remember, if you're going to buy one brush pen, you're wasting your time. Maybe buy 4 or 5 of them, because you're going to want to play with them before the class. Put a mark on the one that you have not used, so that when it comes to the class, you have an actually beautiful, new, sharp brush pen, not one that you've been sort of beating up. Right, thanks very much, and I will see you guys soon. We'll post some more information about the classes. I think tomorrow we'll post a list and we'll post the link and we'll post some other bits and pieces. So thanks very much for your time. Take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.